Today, I'm not only going to show you how to make one of these badass minimalist wallets, but we're also going to give it some NFC functions. Stick around. Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to Skill Tree, where we learn how to do just about everything. Full disclosure, my actual wallet just kind of fell apart, and I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to make something kind of cool, but like day-to-day functional. This is going to be useful for you, going to make a great gift as we go into the holiday seasons. I'm excited, so without much further ado, let's jump right into it and level up this skill. Alright, so the design for this thing, I'm actually modeling after these Ridge wallets here. I've always seen them, and I like them, but I've never actually gotten one. Mostly because I'm cheap, but also because, I like to make things. I'd rather make it. The way those wallets work is they basically have, stretchy sides and bottoms so that, it can expand to accept as many cards as you can fit in there. All while still keeping it very slim. Now, full disclosure, I had no idea how I was going to go about it. My first thought, though, was to make the scales of the wallet out of some hardwood. Specifically, some of this 1/4-inch oak here. All I did was put a card up against it and use that as a measurement, as those outside scales are going to be pretty much the size of a card. With that measurement all figured out, I took it out to my jigsaw, cut it to length and width, and then split that sucker in half. Again, the point of this thing is that it's going to be minimal. I want it to be as thin as possible, so in order for that to happen, I don't want these huge honking scales on the outside. The only problem with that is wood does not like to be this thin. It immediately broke. And I'm sure a lot of you out there knew that was gonna happen. You see me cutting the wood that thin, you're like, that's gonna break. But my initial intention was actually to maybe back it with some sort of a glued on fabric, which I still think might have worked. But no matter how many times I cut that, it still broke. Luckily, I just so happen to have ordered some of these metal business cards here, thinking that I'd be using them inside of my laser engraver. It comes in a packet of 15 to 20 for $15. But again, seeing as they are business card size, they're exactly what I would need. Now, in order to accomplish the stretchiness, I'm actually going to be putting the whole thing together with this elastic banding that I picked up from Joann Fabrics. The thought is to wrap it around the sides and the bottom of those cards to give myself that stretchiness. Then put some kind of scales on the side of that to cover it up. Problem is that banding is going to stick out a lot, and I don't want there to be a huge bump on the sides. To correct that, I actually found that this 2-ounce leather is the exact same width as that band. I figured I could just use that to pad out the difference. So I put the elastic band where it would fall over the card and traced it in. Then busted out some sandpaper just to give my contact adhesive something better to grab onto. With that all said, I just applied a liberal amount of that adhesive onto the card as well as to the leather strips. Then carefully stuck them into place after it had cured. As you can see, I did this little T design here, giving myself enough space for it to wrap around the bottom as well as all around the sides. So again, you need that little bottom wrap there so the cards don't just kind of fall straight through, right? Now notice that those leather strips are actually bigger than they need to be. This is so that I can go back in with my razor knife and cut them to be exact. By doing this afterwards instead of doing it first, I don't have to be so careful while sticking them into place. I can just kind of go back around and cut it and they're gonna look perfect. I of course did the same exact thing with the other scale as well. Now, although it's a pain that the wood didn't work at the beginning, I kind of like when stuff doesn't go to plan that way. Just means you gotta kind of step out of your original plan and get your creative juices flowing. Now, speaking of getting our creative juices flowing, a special thank you for today's sponsor, KiwiCo. With a KiwiCo subscription, you get a monthly crate shipped to your house with a cool project inside. The one I got to try out was this maker crate here, designed for ages 14 through 104. This little project was making a geometric tile tray, and it had everything you need. From the tray itself, the tiles, glue, grout, as well as this cool little book to kind of give you ideas. I thought it was a really nice touch, it drew from historical tile frescoes and stuff. And this thing was super fun to do. From coming up with my design, to gluing my tiles down, and grouting it into place to have my finished work of art. Projects like this are just a fantastic outlet for creativity, and an awesome way to try new things, everything's all compact right there. Not only is this a really great thing for you or me to play with, but if you have any kids, doing things like this can actually help them learn some skills and develop their creativity. Things that can pay dividends their entire life. So if you want to buy something for the young adventurers in your life, or honestly just yourself, you're in luck. By clicking the link in the description below and using the code SKILLTREE, you get 50% off of your first month of KiwiCo. Seriously though, this is a fantastic service and a great gift for anyone in your life. definitely give it a go. Okay, so from here, we've got to prep the elastic strapping to go all around this piece. To get this started, I just end up gluing together the ends of a roughly 7-inch strip. This forms this ring roughly the width of a credit card. This way it fits right into place while holding those two scales together fairly tightly. Now to fill in that bottom piece. Again, I did the same thing, just adding some contact adhesive to it, and then sticking this little connector between them. It leaves us with this little sumo... What is the thing they wear? Give me a second. What is the thing sumo wears? A mawashi. I didn't know that. We now know a new thing, a mawashi. Anyways, I wouldn't just trust the glue here, especially because I'm gonna be like prying it open all the time, right? So in order to make sure that's like more secure, I just locked it in place with some stitches from my sewing machine here. I may have gone a little overboard with my stitches, but I can promise you, it's not going anywhere. But now with that done, we can get a feel of how this thing actually works. As you can see, I can ram a whole bunch of cards into here, and it keeps everything nice and tight. This is honestly a really slick design. I can see why people like buying these. That said, in the store-bought designs, there's a clever little like indentation so you can actually push the cards up because while they're sandwiched in there, they're real hard to get to. So to do that ourselves, I just locked it into my clamp here and then hit it with the sanding drum of my Dremel. I didn't do anything fancy here, I just left it the exact width of the sanding drum, sinking it down about halfway. And by doing it with both the scales sandwiched together, it ends up exact on both sides. Now you can see it's actually really easy to just push up the cards and get access to them. Now as I said, that is a really slick design. I by no means came up with it. You can definitely buy them on the market. But I decided to make mine just a little bit more fancy, kind of make it my own. So I often run into the issue where like I never have business cards on me, man. I make them, I lose them, I leave them at home, but I never leave my wallet anywhere. I even have a little tracker in it in case I lose it. So I decided, what if my wallet was my business card? To that end, those outer scales that I'm gonna use to cover everything up, for those, I actually just sent these 2 pieces of leather through my laser engraver with my logo on it and 2 QR codes. One to my website and one right here to my YouTube channel. But wait, I decided to make this even more fancy. Because while traipsing around on Amazon, I was actually able to find these programmable NFC stickers. Basically, with just an app you can download, you can program these stickers to do a whole bunch of cool stuff. Seriously, look it up on YouTube. You've got people like turning on and off their lights with the things, starting their maps as soon as they get into the car, unlocking their doors with a swipe of their phone, really cool stuff. For my purposes though, I'm actually gonna stick this right onto the inside of the leather here. So now all we have to do is tap the phone, and it'll bring it right to my website. I'm sorry, you can't tell me that isn't slick. I have one on one side that'll bring you to the website, one on one side that'll bring me to the YouTube channel. I love it, it's so cool. I imagine I can't have my phone and my wallet in the same pocket. I think it's just gonna keep sending me to my own website. That's a small matter, it's still really cool, I'm standing by it. So with that good to go, I just applied some contact adhesive to the leather around that elastic strap, and to my scales so I can combine the whole thing together. And this is so slick. Though I will say, because of the way I had to overlap the elastic banding, it does still bump out a little bit. I think if I was to do this again, I'd either find a way to connect them that is a little bit more flat, or I'd use a slightly thicker piece of leather so that I can kind of hollow out the area where those pieces sit. It's not very noticeable, but if you're making it yourself, just something to think about. All right, so again though, I left those scales just slightly larger so that I can make them perfect afterwards. So to do that, I just went in with this little emery board and sanded everything down till it was perfectly even. I also went back in with my Dremel just to make sure that thumb area matched as well. Now to make it just a little bit more fancy, I cased the whole thing with a little bit of water first, and then added some saddle tan dye just for a little pop of color. Now to protect it and to give it a little bit of extra shine, I just decided to use some of this leather balm with atom wax. This is just applied to a wet sponge and then added to the surface of the leather. Finally, I went over the edges with some edge coat to give myself a much more finished look. That edge coat almost makes like a rubberized kind of surface to it. If you have leather bags or anything in your home, look at the edges, odds are there's gonna be some coat on them. It just adds a nice finish and an extra layer of protection to the part that's gonna be like hitting everything, right? Then with a quick polish, look at how slick this thing is. It's so clean looking and it fits all my cards. Everything's super easy to get out, but it holds nice and securely so I'm not afraid of anything falling out. Not only that, but again, these are my business cards. It's got my QR codes on either side, which absolutely work. Look at that, oh, it's so cool. And then if you can't be bothered to take your camera out, you just tap it. I love that. This is such a fun addition to my everyday carry. And again, not only does it take the place of like a wallet, which I need, but also it's my walking business card. That's awesome. And the cool thing about this kind of project is you can make it whatever you want it to be. What's most useful to you? What kind of cool stuff could you make those little chips inside do? I would love to hear what you think. Why don't you leave it down in the comments? Tell me what kind of cool stuff you would do with a project like this. Now, I hope you liked this episode. If you did, why don't you give me some of that like it love, and don't forget to subscribe so you know when I release new content. And again, huge thank you to KiwiCo for sponsoring this episode. Definitely check them out. They're a really cool service. All right, now go out there and learn something awesome. And in the meantime, keep leveling up, you. You stay for the end screen. YouTube loves it when you do that, and it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Another great way to support this channel is by joining these people's noble ranks. These are our Patreon members, and we can't do this without them. Matter of fact, we have a huge thank you to our newest high-tier Patreon members, Madame Defarge and Lex D. Thank you so much for your support. It means everything to us. If you like what we do here and you'd like to support us as well, why don't you consider joining our Patreon? Link in the description below. Otherwise, you can just click on one of these videos here that YouTube thinks you like, and that honestly helps us out too. Go ahead and take your pick. They're both good. I made them. I might be biased, but I like them.